I cannot believe that you're about to see a variety of plants from all over the world, literally. We're in front of Staghorn fern. And Tim, I'm amazed at what you're collected here, and I want you to set us up as to why you like this fern, how you got them, and just give us everything you know.
Morning, Annette. Well, staghorn ferns were the first tropical plant that I got into back in college, and they're very forgiving. They'll take a little bit of dryness in between waterings. I would say this would be your quintessential staghorn. You can see the way the leaves stand up like antlers, hence the name staghorn ferns. That particular plant is from Madagascar in Africa. These plants are from all over the world, so that again would be probably a really good example of why they call them staghorn ferns.
Okay, so what about the one to the right of it? Now, where is it from?
Those two plants are actually from Australia, New Zealand area. So again, you see these plants growing in a wide variety of places from Vietnam, Southeast Asia, Africa. Chances are, unless you know how they grow, you may not see them. Keep in mind, like orchids, they are epiphytes. So they're going to be growing on a trunk of a tree, anywhere from 20 feet up to 60, 70 feet up in the tropical jungles. So again, they're epiphytes. They attach to the tree so that as the leaves drop, they get the food from the leaves decaying, and they get the moisture from the rain. And again, grow very much like orchids, where they don't cause the tree any harm. So they're not a parasite, they're an epiphyte.
That's what I was going to ask. It's not considered like a mistletoe or Spanish moss.
Exactly.
They're not. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Let's, how about this one?
Sure. So this would be an example of one of the hybrids. Most of mine are species, but this is a hybrid called Blue Boy. So there has been quite a bit of cultivation in between species. The only way that can occur is through spores. Whereas reproduction among the staghorns can occur in a number of ways. So that's an example of a plant that you could reproduce from spore, but also as you see the little tiny plantlets coming out,
Yes.
those are known as pups. You can also cut those off and start a new plant from those, and that's probably the most common way that these things show up in nurseries and show up in cultivation.
Have you done this?
I have done that. Many of these plants, for example, this plant is a division off of this plant. So.
Okay. Well, now, here we are in a relatively cool 54 degrees morning, and these are still outside. And I know that you have to, you're going to take these in, right?
Yes.
And you just, do you have to do anything special after you get them inside?
Not really. The most important thing is to make sure they're insect-free before bringing them in, because you don't want to bring insects in and have them spread among your whole collection. Usually I'll make sure they're well watered in, so I don't have to water them indoors right off the bat.
And you will treat them for the insects outside
Yes.
before you take them in. Can I ask what you might use?
Probably the best thing would be the safer soap that you have talked about using on your
Yes.
orchids. That way you're dealing with a non-toxic. I try to keep up with my plants so I don't have a widespread infestation. If you have mealybugs or scale on just one plant, you can almost always keep up with that manually, as long as, again, you really keep an eye on it.
Let's go away from variety now, and let's talk about the makeup of the staghorn fern. This part that's growing here, this is, you say, is a shield?
Yes, this would be the shield frond, the infertile frond. That all staghorns will have some type of shield frond. This one's going to be much larger, much crown-like. In fact, this plant will grow 8 to 10 to 12 feet across in the jungles. It's the largest of all the staghorns. And as you can see, it's putting its energy into shield fronds right now. You don't see a fertile frond down here. It's inside the bud, but it will also produce a fertile frond.
So just right next door to it, this is the fertile frond right here.
That's correct.
On this one. And the massiveness of the shield on this one, I mean, it's just, can't tell if it's a big head of cabbage or
Right.
it's a Staghorn. Now, let's also talk about the fact that these do have to have something to make them stable once you get them in your possession. So the boards and things, do they come that way, or are you attaching them?
Yes, I've remounted these all onto boards. It tends to work best for me because it most closely emulates them growing around a tree in their natural habitat. It also makes them easier to display than it would be in a pot, and easier to water as well.
So in your growing and cultivating these, have you really ever had any real issues with it? Are they relatively simple once you get them?
They are. I mean, there are issues that can come up that are out of your control. You may not be able to, do anything about. For example, if we had 2 or 3 weeks of steady rain, especially this time of year, they would be more prone to fungus or so forth. In Florida, they run into that probably a lot more than we do because the humidity is traditionally so much higher. But in general, I would rate them among the most sturdy houseplants. A lot of people are intimidated by them, but they are absolutely hardy. Not only, like you said, it was 40-some degrees this morning. I will have them out here until it probably reaches about 38, 39 degrees. And as long as it doesn't do that for 2-3 nights in a row, I probably won't have any kind of cold damage. I can leave them out for a night or two, even in the high 30s.
So you're planning for that transition now, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit early this year, but yes, I am.
This one, where did you say this one would grow mostly? In what area?
This would grow mostly in Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands.
I think this is quite ingenious here, how you have these displayed and the way you can hang them. Do you ever have any issues with animals or squirrels or anything coming in here bothering them?
No, the groundhogs and deer seem to like everything in my yard except my staghorn, so fortunately they're not real prone to. Yeah.
Okay.
And the chewing bugs like grasshoppers and that don't seem to care for them either.
We have moved on to the Congo. All right, Tim, tell us about this one.
All right. This is one of my favorite plants. It's called the elephant ear staghorn, and you can see the leaf doesn't have any divisions. It isn't antler-like the other species. Very, very different plant. Again, only grows in one part of the Central Africa, in the Congo. Be a good example to see the spores being formed on that. So all of them are going to develop spores a little bit differently for reproduction, but that's a very, very unusual variety.
Yeah, this kind of like our Japanese painted ferns in our gardens. Those actually are going all over because of spores. Is that correct, in our garden?
That's correct.
But these don't do that.
Right. Even in the jungle, as these drop multiple spores, only a very small percentage of those spores would survive and become adult plants.
I'm kind of with you. That's sort of cool, but I like all these big buck things looking out behind you there. All right, let's go to this one.
Okay. This plant is kind of special to me because I traded Dick Page, who used to be over Cheekwood Gardens. I traded him actually one of these elephant ear staghorns for this plant, which is Longwood Gardens, from the Longwood Gardens in Pennsylvania. It's a cultivar of willinckii that we'll be talking about in a second here. And I just think it has just a majestic form of growth, kind of those nice arching leaves, real pretty coppery shield fronds when they turn brown.
This is just really pretty on them. Okay, how about this one?
That is one of the rare plants. That is PLATYCERIUM willinckii. I wish a lot of these had common names, but they don't. That plant is from Australia, New Zealand, and that area, Java, Sumatra, and it is slated as one of the most difficult to grow of the staghorns. I have not particularly struggled with it, but it does not like overwatering and it does not like ultra cold temperatures, so sometimes I'll sneak that in a little bit early. That plant I have had it probably close to 40-some years. So
is this the college plant?
It is yes it is. That is probably the slowest growing of the staghorns, and it took it that long to grow into a specimen plant like that.
We are about to finish our journey around the globe, literally. Tim, fill us in on our last 3 fern.
Last 3 ferns are PLATYCERIUM andinum, kind of named after the Andes. These are the only staghorns that grow in the Western Hemisphere, and they grow in a little tiny corner of the jungle near Iquitos, Peru. So these plants are not only rare, they're fairly challenging to grow. So to be able to have them represented in a collection, I'm very, very proud of them. These are all divisions from an original plant, so you can see they seem to divide quite freely. This would be a good plant to show the example how the spores develop. If I turn this frond over and you see the reddish brown there, that is very demonstrative of how the staghorns produce the ferns. And when they turn this reddish, as in your cinnamon ferns or garden ferns, means they're almost ripe and will then, drop.
It looks like suede back there, doesn't it? Okay.
And you can also see that these have a very different habit of growth, the more long, straight down, pendulant growth versus the upright antler type growth.
Oh, yes.
Completely different form of growth. But again, the same configuration. You've got your fertile fronds, and then you've got your infertile fronds, your shield fronds.
Yeah, well, as I look down this fence, it's very evident of the difference where those down there, I consider that's like the big buck in the backyard down there, all their fronds going up and then these falling downward. So it's just, I'm amazed that I didn't know that you had these. I know you're a true plantsman, but your knowledge, your time, and all the effort that you've shared with us today, I think this is just wonderful to visit with you and see this type of a plant that we really don't realize is here, and that we could actually grow one, and you give us a source to where we could find them, and I just can't thank you enough.
You're very welcome, and thank you for letting me share.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.